we were flowing along great. And then he said, I'd like to do an album of Cactus that all the guys that it influenced to put on one record. I said, oh, okay, that's a cool idea. He said, what do you think? Can you do that? I go, yeah, I can do that. I said, I did Guitar Zeus in the 90s, had all the greatest guitar players on there of the 80s and 70s and 80s and 90s. He said, you think so? I said, yeah, I can do that. We need a budget. So he gave me a budget, and we started doing it. I mean, I knew I had people like Ted Nugent would do it, and the Doug Pinnick and Ty would do it because they were all Cactus fans. Dee Snider, I think, would have done it because I heard he was a big Cactus fan. And, so it's just a matter of like getting it together. The hardest part was, how do I record this thing? Not one person in this whole lineup was in the same room with somebody else. I mean, so that right there was a feat.
Yeah, for the old school guys like you, is that difficult to sort of
comprehend
that, or is it just easier?
In my studio, where's my studio? My studio. Somehow I'm turning backwards on this thing.
Ooh, well, it's perfect right there, perfectly seen.
Yeah, there it is. There we go. There we go. Okay.
That's great.
I mean, it's on the screen. It's on my left, but it's really it's on my right. But it's back. Somehow it's backwards. I've been dealing with this all day, and this just seems backwards. So I don't know why. But anyway, I forgot what you asked me.
Just
I know. It's easy. Yeah. No, I mean, I've been dealing with the studio here for this. I live in Florida. I've had the studio for 4 years. I've learned how to work it. Those bass drums on that studio on the drum set, 1971 Cactus bass drums, believe it or not.
Ooh, wow.
So I've used it on my last year. I did King Cobra record. I did my instrumental record with Peace Perdomo record. I've done Vanilla Fudge stuff in here. I've done a lot of stuff in here. And I engineered it and did it myself. So I learned to get a great drum sound. So on this one, I said, well, how am I going to start this? I'd have to get a click and a guitar player and my singer to run the songs down. I said, that's going to be too rough. So let me try and put the click down, and I'll sing it in my head, and I'll play it. So I did that with Parchment Farm, and that's 247 beats per minute, which is that means like
wow.
How many beats per minute? That's 247 or 243. I can't remember the exact number, but it's fast. So I put the click on. I timed it out for 4 minutes. I knew it was about 3.5 minutes. And then I just sat there and went 1, 2, 3, 4, without end. Bob, do you know the hair and the Parchment Farm? And sitting over, I'm singing it to myself. And it was good. But then when it was done, I said, if I want to punch something in, I don't know where anything is. If it's a verse, if it's a solo. So I had to go in like 1 minute to 1 minute 2 was this. And, I wrote it down so I knew. Then I did the next song was One Way or Another. I did the same thing. I said, I can't do this for 14 songs. This is crazy. So what I did was I put the click down and then I sang it. So in other words, I did Evil. And I went bam, bam, 2, 3, 4, bam, la, bam, ba, bam, da, bam, da, bam, 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 drum fill, down, the riff, down, the verse, nowhere from home, the riff, down. I didn't have to say riff because I hear it. So when I played the whole thing like that, solo, second solo, chorus, I knew where I was. If I wanted to fix something, I knew where I was. And it gave me something to play to instead of thinking about it. So I did all the songs like that. And after it was done, I sent it to my singer guitar player, Jim Stapler. He put guitar, vocals, and harmonica where needed. And then we gave it to our bass player. And we had demos. So then I would call my friends. I called Doug Pinnick and Ty. You want to do this? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, Doug, can you sing and play bass on One Way or Another? Yeah, okay. I called Ted Nugent. I'm going to have Doug Pinnick play and sing. Yeah, I love those guys. Sure. So little by little, I started gathering people on it. And some people like Ted, as soon as I told him about it, I'm in.
Yeah.
No hesitation. Dee Snider, same thing. Evil, I knew he sang Evil years ago, he had a group called Widowmaker.
Yeah.
And the drummer of that was my student, Joe Franco. So
Oh.
I knew that he sang Evil. So I called Joe and I said, what do you think? You think he would want to do this? He goes, oh, man, he loved Cactus. So I called him. I said, D, what about this? He said, as soon as I said, what about this? You win? He goes, I'm in. Just like that. So it was great. So then I knew he was in. So I said, well, let me get Doug to play bass again because I love his playing. And then let's get McCarty, the original guitar player, to play on Evil, right?
Yeah.
And put Doug on it, D on it. So that was that combination. And then we did Parchment Farm, which was the first thing I did without that track of me singing. And so I called Billy Sheehan. Billy said, look, anything you want to do regarding Tim Boger, because that was his mentor, to celebrate Tim or Vanilla Fudge or Cactus, I'm in. I said, okay. So I said, I want you to do Parchment Farm, and I want you to do Oleo, which has a Tim Bogert bass solo in it. He goes, great. So I did those. I put him on bass. And then Jim McCarty said, I want to play on Parchment Farm because I already committed Joe Bonamassa to play the solo. It was like a roadmap, man. It was like who's on what, who's on first, you know? And I went on Joe Bonamassa's podcast, and he said, man, Parchment Farm blew my brains out when I heard it back in the day. I said, good. We're going to do Parchment Farm again like this. Can you? I said, we do the solos? He goes, yeah. So he did the solos, and I got McCarty to play during the verses and the filler solos during the verses. So that's him. And then Billy Sheehan, my singer, and we had it. So.
Well,
are you frozen?
Did I? Can you still hear me? I'm
Yeah,
still.
I hear you, but you're frozen.
Well, that's okay. We just need the audio here. Really, dadgummit.
Okay, fine.
I'm gonna try to get unfrozen in the meantime, but
okay.
In the meantime, Carmine, you know, Ted, when he came on the show, talked about how much he was influenced, you know, by the early Cactus albums, and how much, you know, he was immersed with it, and how much that rock and roll, and that he grew up, you know, listening to those great guitarists like Bo Diddley and
Jim
and
McCarty.
Chuck Berry. Jim McCarty was his number one, you know. So whenever you hear things like that from fellow musicians, I mean, how gratifying is that to know that music you made, and, you know, from Vanilla Fudge to all the way on up, that, you know, these Cactus albums especially, like, had such an impact.
Well, for me, it's gratifying, but, you know, I'm kind of used to it, but I don't take it for granted, you know, because I've been doing this all my life. You know, I mean, I'm 77. I've been doing this since I'm 20. You know, it's like 57 years I've been doing this. You know, so I'm used to, you know, people telling me that and doing that, but I don't take it for granted because I think it's amazing that I've pioneered in those days, you know, with Ludwig drums and just pioneered drumming because, you know, when I came out, it wasn't anything like this. So I'm really amazed. I have a blessed career. I knock on wood that I had a blessed career. I've had the same lifestyle all my life. And this album is just a great proof to what Cactus did and what I've accomplished. And then when I called these guys up and they said, yeah, let's do it, you know, it made me feel great because, you know, they were friends of mine. Some of them I thought were friends, weren't influenced by them. Like Steve Stevens. When I called him, I thought he was just, you know, a friend of mine. He said, no, I'm a fan of Cactus. I grew up in Brooklyn, of course, man. I'm a fan of Cactus. I said, wow. Oh, you're moving again.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Back. So,
we lost you for a second there.
Yeah, so after we got all this together, I said, let's do an album cover like Sgt. Pepper. You know, so I put everybody that played on the record on the cover.
It's like a traveling Wilburys kind of vibe.
It is, yeah. So, and then, you know, when it was all done, you know, a lot of crazy things happened. Like, you know, we got an Evil, right? We had Jim McCarty said, who's going to sing this? I said, well, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. He goes, oh, man, the Twisted Sister singer, you know, are you kidding me? I said, no, dude, he's a good singer. He'll do this great. He used to sing it before. So after I got it done and I played it for him, he goes, who's singing? I said, that's the guy from Twisted Sister. He goes, wow, that is awesome. I said, I know. He sounds like the original singer, Rusty Day. He goes, yeah, he does. So he was very happy with that. And he was happy when we got Bonamassa on it and him on the same track. Because they love each other on guitar players, as guitar players. Just like Ted. And Ted loved McCarty. Bonamassa loved McCarty too. And, you know, McCarty, I consider McCarty the Jeff Beck of America, you know, because back when Jeff Beck started was with the Yardbirds, McCarty was with the Detroit Wheels, and he was doing the same thing. You know, it's just McCarty didn't have the breaks or the management or whatever that Jeff Beck had. And, you know, so he ended up in Cactus, and Cactus did well, but not as well as Jeff Beck did. So, but it's cool. McCarty is still a legendary American guitarist. And, you know, so that those two are great. And then like other things that happen, like song Swim, Let Me Swim, the intro to Let Me Swim. We did that intro in 1970. If you listen to Eruption, you know, by Van Halen,
yep,
it's the same thing. You hit the big chord, play the guitar, and then you go bam, bam, bam. You hit another chord, play your guitar, right? Except they spread it out, right? It was shorter. Ours was just bam, 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 into the song.
That's
I didn't know about
it. I'd never put that together before.
No, so that's why on this record I stretched it out. Right? And Let Me Swim. Yep. So when we talk about this, you can actually compare it and say, wow, this is Eruption and this is Let Me Swim intro. And I got a great guitar player. I said, who could I get to play it that I know is fantastic? So I got Doug Aldridge. Doug Aldridge is like,
White
I knew
Snake
he would play it great. I knew he would play with Grio. I was saying Grio, right? Yeah, I got great, and you said Dio, and I went to my brain. I feel like Joe Biden. Hold on.
Roll that footage.
You know. Anyway, yeah. So I said Doug would be able to do this. So I tell him, I said, look, this part of the song, this intro, is just like Eruption, man. Listen to Eruption and listen to this. I said, so I want you to play it like, you know, all hell breaks loose on this intro. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's in the right key. So, okay. So he did it, and wow. I said, wow, it's exactly what I wanted. You know, and he played the hell out of it and then played the hell out of the song. And now if you listen to the intro and you listen to Eruption, you see resemblance. You know,
yeah.
You know?
That just goes to show, Carmine, that you're kind of the last and sort of a, you know, a dying breed of the early era of rock and roll that changed everything. You know, people called Cactus the American Led Zeppelin. You have been around for it all. You've seen it all. You've played with everyone. You've toured with Jimi Hendrix. You've been around for heavy metal, for hair metal, for grunge metal, for everything before and after. You've been around for it all. So how do you feel as just a musician that's seen so much change and seen the early onset of rock and roll to kind of to where it is now? Like, what's it been like just as a observer?
Well, now, what do you call rock and roll now?
I don't know. I know exactly.
I mean, like maybe the Foo Fighters, maybe. Yeah, I mean they're rock. They're rock. Papa Roach is rock.
I like
that.
But
I see the influences that we did back in the day in these bands. You know, like the heavy drumming. You know, and you know, when I met Dave Grohl, he told me he listened to my BBA stuff. You know, and like I said, I've been blessed being in the career this long and having, you know, all these people listen to me and that I like as well. Like I went to see Papa Roach. I thought they were awesome, you know, but I seen the drummer, you know, banging, you know, and that was me. You know, before me, Mitch Mitchell, there was like 4 guys in those days. Dino Dinelli is one of them, American, but the other guys were English. Keith Moon, Mitch Mitchell, and Ginger Baker. They all played light. You look at me on the Ed Sullivan Show, I was viciously attacking my drums. Both time we were on, 68 and 69. And nobody played like that back then, you know. And then Bonham came up, you know, but Bonham said I was his mentor. I even got him his drum set, the first big drum set he had. You know, but we were friends. people think that, they think of John Bonham, they go, that you had to start somewhere, you know. They opened up for us. Vanilla Fudge paid half of their fee that night. John Bonham played a little Ringo set,
Wow.
until he saw my set, and I got him the same set as mine. When they took one bass drum away, it had the Led Zeppelin drum set was born. So, my fingers are in a lot of stuff in this stew.
Well, I said Cactus was underrated. This is a
Yes.
weird question to ask. I don't know if you've ever been asked this. Do you think you are underrated as a
Me?
drummer? Yeah.
Well, I think I'm underrated in the polls of, like, who's the number one drummer,
Right.
and not as a drummer. They look at it more as what group you're in.
Like, what was the most famous band? So John Bonham, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, it was Led
obviously.
Zeppelin. Yeah. Neil
But
Peart and Rush. I mean, my
exactly.
bands were
Keith
never
Moon.
that bad. The biggest band I played with was Rod Stewart. When I was at Rod Stewart, I was in all the polls, in the top 5 of the polls. Because I was playing in front of 20,000 people every night, sometimes 100,000 people in a week. But Led Zeppelin were huge, and you still hear that, and it's all over the hard rock radio, and people were prone to say John Bonham's the best. So the younger generation said, well, he must be the best. Everybody said he's the best. But he was awesome. He was the king of less is more.
Mm.
But with a great drum sound that he had, partly due to the drums that I got him, but also the first album had small drums, but it was Jimmy Page, producer. He knew how to get that killer drum sound. And the drums are right in the front of every track. The drums weren't buried. They were in the front like an R&B mix. That's the way it should be, But I love John Bonham. I thought he was great. And Steve Smith, you know who Steve Smith is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he called me up one day and he said, I just finished listening to the Renaissance album, Vanilla Fudge. He said, everything John Bonham does is on that album. And that album came out in '68 before they came out. And I said, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's played with Journey, right? He played with Journey quite a bit.
Yeah, he was
Steve,
the guy that made all the big records with them. But he's an unbelievable drummer, jazz drummer. I don't think he's even, gets what he deserves too.
As someone that's not a musician, I wonder often, like, the art. You talked about hitting hard, and you and your brother Vinny certainly encapsulates that as well. I love his work on the Black Sabbath albums and Heaven and Hell. How important is that when you take away everything else, the rhythm, the timing, just hitting hard, the art of hitting hard?
Well,
how important is that?
It's not that important today because when I started it, there were no PA systems. I hit hard for a reason, because I wanted to be heard with the rest of the music. Otherwise, I would have been buried. And I got big drums, which started the whole fad all over the world with Ludwig. I got an original big drum when I was with Vanilla Fudge. If you look at the Ed Sullivan show, first time doing Keep Me Hanging On, I had one giant bass drum. When I got endorsed, I said, well, look, the bass drum is louder. Let me get everything bigger. So I got everything bigger. And I used to hit them harder because they were, bigger the drum, the harder to hit. So once I did that, that started a fad with Ludwig Drum Company. I was pioneering with them so many things, which ended up becoming the art, the drumming art,
Right.
The state of the art drumming. And me and Ludwig started so many things together that they're still going on today.
Well, when you see performers like, Rod, who you played with many years, who's almost 80, performing, Mick Jagger and the Stones are on tour this year. Mick is 81 and looks just tremendous out there. And like, he is an enigma, wrapped in an enigma. We're in uncharted territory with artists from your generation that are playing and performing at a high level. I mean, what does that make you proud when you see that? You're not quite there yet. Carmine,
no, but it makes me proud. But also, it's easy to perform at that level because you got your own plane, you got your own doctor, you got your own masseuse.
That's true.
The person's on. When I was at Rod, we had people who did the wardrobe. We had a masseuse. We didn't have doctors yet. We didn't have our own planes. That's easy. When you're my
That's a good
age,
point.
when you're my age, and you're not in your own plane, I don't go on tours anymore like that.
Right.
Because the bands I play with, Vanilla Fudge, we do fine, but we don't play 20,000 seats. We
Sure.
play 500 seats, 600 seats. The biggest thing I'm doing now is my Rod show called Tonight's the Night. We do 1,000 people, and we just sold out a show in New Jersey. Where are you at?
Kansas City.
Okay, we just sold out a show in New Jersey. They added a second show, which is decent money. We're just flying in, doing one show,
Right.
and then out.
Sure.
Make good money, do merch, and go out. But sometimes we might do 2 shows. But if we do, we'll get in a Sprinter van, those big Mercedes Sprinter vans, and we'll throw whatever my drums in the back, and we're off. We have a couple of roadies, and we don't drive or nothing. But it's a Sprinter van. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't have a masseuse. I don't have a doctor. So it's easy to tour the way they're touring, paying stadiums, making that gigantic money. I mean, I'm not jealous. I don't care. I mean, I'm happy where I am. But people ask me about touring. You're going to do any tours? And I say the same thing. If I was big enough to have my own plane and my own doctors, I'd be touring all the time, go anywhere. But since I don't have that, I'll go out, like the Vanilla Fudge went out for 4 days, sold out, came home. We just did 3 days with Cactus and Foghat, came home. We just did a weekend in New York with Cactus and came home. And now I'm doing the 4th of July weekend. On the 5th, I fly to Jersey. We do the gig on the 6th, come back on the 7th. And then we have a gig on the 11th and another gig on the 19th. It's enough gigs to keep playing without killing yourself. At my age, I don't want to kill myself. I mean, and I would do 3 gigs on the road in a row. If we had to do more, if we had to do 4 gigs or 5, I would take a break, a day off, then 2 more, and then home. As long as you don't kill yourself.
Yeah, that's really key. Carmine,
well, like I said, it's easy. It's easy when you're
right.
Mick Jagger in the Stones, you're flying around in your own planes, like Motley Crue. They have their own plane each. That's
Iron
easy.
Maiden sure does.
Iron Maiden. Well, Iron Maiden, I know Nico. They have a big one jet, and what's his name? Bruce flies it sometimes.
Right. Exactly. That is.
I'm good friends with Nico, and I hadn't seen Iron Maiden in a long time, and I was never really an Iron Maiden fan. But when I went to see them in New Jersey last year with Nico, I sat at the sound booth, and I was treated like a good friend of the band, and they were great.
And
Bruce
Nico
sounds like Dio, man. He sounded like Dio.
Ooh.
And I consider Dio one of the best rock singers. He sounded like Dio. The only thing I had to say, I said, Nico, get rid of that big drum set. I can't even see you.
Everybody says that. Everybody always says that.
Said,
and I wondered
that. I played his drums. They're awful to play. Horrible. Nothing's near you. Your toms are up here, and but the staging was great. I mean, the whole show was great. And I wasn't an Iron Maiden fan. Maybe if I saw him again, what I don't like about some bands that play everything the same exactly every night.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the bands that, there are bands that that do that. Like I take like the Police. I love the Police because every night it was different. I love the Police. I love that band. I loved Led Zeppelin. Every night was different. Other bands, which I won't mention, exactly the same. King's X, they're the same, but they leave room to jam in there. I
know. I feel like today with state-of-the-art productions and shows that everything is sampled. There's a lighting cues and pyro and all that stuff is so technical, with the show that it's like you can't do. There's not much room for improvisation.
Yeah,
is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally,
that's kind of how.
Totally
and I know Nico had to really. He had some health issues. He came back real early.
He came back, but he's saying he's got to get this one fill in one of these songs exactly right because everybody knows that fill. I said, "Fuck that fill. Do a triplet instead of that fill." He goes, "I can't. Everybody knows that fill." I said, "Dude,
he's right. I do know. I think it's Where Eagles Dare is what he's talking about, and that is."
I mean, I don't know what I'm playing. When I do a track on this Cactus album, I just played what I play. When I
Right.
have to do a video, I gotta write down by notes what the hell I played to try and get it close, and I still don't get it right.
Right. And that's the
You
beauty of
know?
it, though, right? That's
Yeah,
the
and you could
beauty.
even look at the number one single, which is simple. Do you think I'm sexy? There's a fill at the end. It's simple. Dig it down, dig it down, dig it down. Psh, right? When we
Yep.
first did it, I don't remember what I did. So when we first did the video in those days, I never studied because the video thing was new back in those days.
Sure.
You know, it was new. So I looked at it and I said, now look at it. And I go, how could I not do that fill? You know, it was so simple, but that's still what I go through today.
Well, it's such a lasting lineage. And someone like me, I just turned 40 in February, and this music is so part of my life and part of my soul. And you being such a major part of that,
Well, I
I hope you do
appreciate
know that
that.
there's a lot of younger people out there that really
Yeah, I
impressed
just did a
me.
guy in England and Poland who was 36 years old, you know. And of course, I had to ask him what he thought of the debate the other day, and how do they feel about Russia being right next door to them fighting Ukraine? Yeah, just
That's true.
for the hell of it. He said,
Poland's been through a lot in their
yeah,
history, have
yeah.
they
So
not?
he said, you know, one of the Russian missiles hit Poland, killed a couple of people. I don't even know if we heard about that, you
I
know.
Poland. I
And you
love
know,
Poland.
it's scary,
Those are
you know.
great people there, and they've been through so
Yeah,
much. They have
so
been
much.
through. Oh,
But you know what? They love to rock. They wanted
oh my
Cactus to
God.
go there. They wanted Cactus to go there this year. But I don't
That
go out of the country for health reasons. That's why I'd like my own doctor on a plane.
See, there we go. That's the key there. And yeah, we did learn some things about where we are as a country the other day.
Yeah,
And
terrible.
as the 4th of July approaches, and I just had Ted Nugent on, I'm feeling all kinds of patriotic. I'm a America freedom loving person
Me too.
you know what I mean? And so
And I
anything else
love the
beyond
fact
that is
that
fine.
Ted don't give a crap. He just lets
Yes.
everybody know what he feels. I mean, I don't because everybody said, well, you shouldn't do that. You might lose some fans. But, you know, I go, well, okay, kind of. You know, but I tell you the truth, I just gave a version of the Star Spangled Banner, right, that I did with a version of Vanilla Fudge, which we don't call it Vanilla Fudge. We call it Boga to Peace and Friends. And this is an amazing version of it. And I gave it to my friends in Washington to give to Trump. I said, man,
Awesome.
maybe they'll play it at the convention, use it for the convention, because it is the coolest rock version of Star Spangled Banner. You know, Hendrix did a really cool version back in the day. This is like a really good singing version, great music, and it puts in the Bill of Rights. I mean, it's really cool.
Oh, see,
You know,
Carmine, you and I get along.
I wasn't going to give it to the other ones because look at the
You
country.
You
Come
think they
on,
would use any America First type of
God.
endorsement?
I mean,
Never.
look at these guys coming in, killing people. I mean,
Oh,
don't you think something big's going to happen? I do.
oh, you were in a dire state here with 5 months and maybe and longer,
Something big's
7.
going to happen
It's
in this
scary,
country.
Carmine. It's scary,
Scary.
and
I mean,
we've got to get.
I used to live. I lived in Brooklyn. Whenever I went to Manhattan, I saw the World Trade Centers going up little by little.
Oh,
You know, when they went down, I got so anxious. I mean, it freaked me
of
out.
course, that was the
You
word.
know,
And that's been
you
23
know, and
years.
you know what? That was 6 guys that were in the country. Now you
Yeah.
got millions.
And it's a dire state, but that is the thing, is that music has always sort of superseded
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
You know
that
what I
was like
mean?
we did an album in the Vanilla Fudge called "The Beat Goes On." It ruined our career, but it was all about that. It was all about through the wars, through everything. Music always superseded and came through, whether it was
Exactly.
classical, the Beatles, the Hound Dog with Elvis, all that stuff coming through, and you got Sieg Heil, Black Power cheering. It's just crazy album. Had no music on it. You know, it was a concept album, but it was too
Right.
early for us. But anyway, but you're right. The music does go through, and you know, I'm still playing. You know, that probably what I just told you is probably the most political thing I've ever said in any interview anywhere.
And that'll probably be what gets the big headlines now, of course,
Yeah,
is that.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's like
Carmine Appice, Republican.
we're just normal right,
I'm
you
not
know,
anything.
Americans, right? You know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
anything.
We're just Americans that,
I
that
like
want the
Clinton. I
best.
thought Clinton was good. I didn't like
Yeah.
one of the Bushes. You know,
I
I don't care.
There you
I
go.
just go where the good's going. You know, I'm an American. I like to see America. You know, luckily I live in Florida. I used to live in California
Oh
and New
my
York,
God.
so forget it.
You're in the right place.
My kids still live in New York, California. The rest of my family lives there, and they're stuck there for one reason or another. But I got
Oh,
out. I said, I'm
I'm
in Florida.
glad.
I got here in the middle of the COVID. Everything was open.
Oh yeah, it was great. I went to Pensacola and St. Pete during that time, and that was the best place to be.
Awesome,
So,
man. Awesome.
um,
I
I
love it
did,
here. I got the studio here. I got a beautiful house. My wife is great, 21 years. I got a new dog. I'm recording what I want to record.
I love it.
Somebody said, let's do an album. Okay, let's do it. I go in there and we do it. It doesn't cost me nothing. You
Did you
know?
ever meet Elvis?
Elvis? No, I knew his
You never
drummer.
met him.
I know. I met all the Beatles except Ringo. All right. I never met
Wow.
Elvis. I played with Bo Diddley.
Yeah.
Right? I backed up Chuck Berry, but never Elvis.
Did you ever meet Little Richard?
I never did, but he's awesome. Listen, I
Man.
got to run in like
Yeah.
10 minutes, if that's cool.
No, I was just wrapping up, Carmine.
you
I
are,
just want to
okay.
get a couple in there, but no, I want to make sure that people know that the new album, the new Cactus release, Temple of Blues, Influences and Friends, it's out now on Cleopatra Records.
And
Carmine, one of the
yeah. Well,
no,
finish yours, then I'm going to tell you one thing.
yeah, one of the great rock drummers of all time. And this album, it just brings together so many wonderful faces and so many memorable musicians here that all come together for this. And I can't put it over enough. It's great. So Carmine, I appreciate it.
This was on the road to rock.
That's right.
But the other thing is, when I don't know if I said this, but when I said to them, Brian, who owns the label, I said, we got to market this as a blues album, because I look at Foghat, Robin Trower, number 1, number 3 on the blues charts. So that's when he said, good, let's call it Temple of Blues, influences and friends. It was just going to be influences and friends. Okay, fine. We market it as a blues album. I said, it's going to get on the charts somewhere. It broke in at number 3.
Unreal. I love that.
Unbelievable. So that opens up the door for me to do more Cactus Blues albums.
Let's do it. I'm up for all of it. Carmine, you're the best, man. You've done so much, and thankful for your time. We'll talk again soon. Best of luck, and have a great rest of your summer, Carmine. We'll talk soon, my friend.
Happy 4th, bro.
Happy 4th. You bet. Thank you.